Is America facing its best years ever, or a period of national decline? That's the focus of this video presentation entitled America at a Crossroads. Hello, I'm Pat Robertson. You probably know me as the host of television's 700 Club program and as a former candidate for the Republican nomination for the presidency of the United States. But today I would like to speak to you as a private citizen about something that troubles me deeply. That's the moral decline of America, and of course what you and I can do about it. America, a nation founded by Christians and built upon biblical values, is in danger of losing its proud heritage of national greatness through moral strength. The warning signs are all around us. The United States has the highest illiteracy rate in the industrialized world. 1 out of every 2 marriages in this country ends in divorce. 1 out of every 3 pregnancies ends in abortion. And 15 million children are living in one-parent households. There's an epidemic of sexually transmitted diseases, one of which is incurable and fatal. Pornography is an $8 billion a year industry. Our government is spending itself into debt at a rate of $500,000 a minute. And that leaves future generations with a total debt that already exceeds $3 trillion. No society, however strong militarily or economically, has ever endured, whose families disintegrate, marriages splinter, whose people give themselves over to unrestrained promiscuity and sensuality, and whose youth waste themselves in crime and narcotics. That's not what our forefathers had in mind when they founded America. When the first Europeans landed on this continent in 1607, they pledged themselves to build a holy, a righteous society, a society that would truly be a city on a hill, an example for the entire world to emulate. I believe that we can reclaim that heritage. Christians founded this nation, they built this nation, and for 300 years they governed this nation. We can govern again. And that's why I founded the Christian Coalition, to give Christians a voice in their government again. The Christian Coalition is a grassroots, issues organization that represents Christians before state legislatures and the United States Congress. An organization that speaks out in the media, protests anti-Christian bigotry, and trains Christians for effective political action. The mission of the Christian Coalition is simple: to mobilize Christians one precinct at a time, one community at a time, one state at a time, until once again we are the head and not the tail, and at the top rather than the bottom of our political system. It's time to say loud and clear, Christians are Americans too. We have as much a right and duty to be informed and active in civic affairs as any other American. Because the darkness is so pervasive, there's never been a greater need for God's people to be the salt and light of our society. Together, we can calm the storm that threatens our land.
A vacuum does exist for an organization that enables Christians to affect politics. The vision of the Christian Coalition is to provide a means to give Christians a voice in their government once again. The coalition differs from electoral politics in 3 ways. First, it focuses on issues rather than on candidates. Second, its emphasis is local rather than national. And, as a permanent organization, the coalition will be able to affect change in American politics continuously. Here is what some prominent Christian leaders are saying about the Christian Coalition.
And I believe that what we need to do as a nation, and what the Christian Coalition can help make happen, is return to that vision of this nation articulated so clearly by our founding fathers. We need to return to the constitutional guarantees of equal protection under the law.
The last one in the room is usually the one that wins. And when you're negotiating with political people, you've got to stay and stay and stay. And if you lose this time, you come back again next time. And if you lose again, you come back again. You keep coming back and you keep coming back until ultimately you will win.
I hope that we can look back on this day and we can say today is truly the time when the Christian community finally got its act together, was the beginning of the time when we took this seriously, when we understood the long-term commitment. We will never have heaven on earth. We can only do what our forefathers did, and that is sacrifice to the point where others may be able to live better than ourselves. Christian Coalition Executive Director Ralph Reed.
We felt that with the roughly 1,900,000 households that Pat Robertson came out of his presidential campaign with on computer tape, about 175,000 of those identified as activists and prime donors, that there was a built-in base to build a new pro-family Christian organization in this country. The question is, how will we accomplish it? And that's where we get to this five-fold strategy. It's a five-fold strategy that if we execute this in the coming 10 years, we will be the most powerful political force in American politics. The first is a grassroots strategy. We're going to have the nation divided up into seven state regions. And in each of those regions, we're going to have a full-time, paid, trained, professional regional director. They will be responsible for training activists in their region, interfacing with candidates at the local, state, and federal level, and mobilizing people at the grassroots. Each of those regional directors in each of those 7 states will have 10 top counties, targets, where they have to organize down into the precincts by the next election. Organized into precincts with precinct captains and then block captains. Second aspect of the grassroots strategy is one that I've already touched on, and that's the leadership schools. We're going to put literally millions of dollars into the field to teach people. Second leg of this strategy is a lobby strategy. Once you've built that grassroots organization, then what do you do with it? The answer is you mobilize it to influence public policy. And so what we're going to do is have a full-time lobbying presence in Washington by the middle of 1991 with a fully staffed lobbyist who will track legislation and keep our people updated. And then we will have either a part-time or full-time pro-family lobbyist in as many state capitals as we can organize. Third aspect of this I think is very important, and that's a media strategy. The mistake that we made in the 80s was in allowing the media to filter our message through television and newspapers, so that the only thing the American people found out about who we were and what we stood for was what the media said we were. So through the media, we have a sophisticated program of radio and television. We're going to be running 60 and 120-second spots on the Christian Coalition on 309 radio stations around the nation. And in addition to that, we'll be doing issue spots on national cable television. We'll also be doing billboards, and we will be doing full-page ads in national newspapers. We're going to be spending about $250,000 a year on media, so that the message that people get about the Christian Coalition and who we are is what we want them to get instead of what the media wants us to get. Fourthly, we have a legal strategy. This battle, in addition to being fought in the airwaves and in the halls of Congress, will be fought in the courtrooms. In fact, in many cases, it's a natural flow. You get a bill passed, ACLU goes in and sues over it, and then you end up in court. And then finally, and really most importantly, it's a strategy of prayer. You know, as good as it sounds, if it's our plan and not God's plan, it's not going to work. And you've got to always, as David saw it, when he went into battle against the Philistines, you've got to always get down on your face before God and say, Lord, do you want me to go up into battle or not? And if you do, how do you want me to? And I believe that if we carry this five-fold strategy out with diligence and with effectiveness, I think that we will be the most powerful political force in the nation by the end of this decade.